well, that was fast. This is the Coast to Coast Combat Hour. Ed Carbajal, as always, here with Matthew Hawkins. We return on the week that the UFC returns to action. First episode of the new year brought to you by All Access MMA. Matt, Happy New Year, man. Happy New Year to the folks that listen in and watch us. Just because, again, I know we're a week a little bit late, but obviously there were some technical difficulties, having some challenges here with the hardware, but that shall be resolved shortly. Matt, so how's your New Year so far?
So far, so good. Dodging COVID like the goddamn Matrix, but hopefully that continues. But other than that, no, can't complain. Not bad having a week off last week. I know we had some technical difficulties. Been pretty consistent, but it was kind of a slow week following the end of the year, and we didn't have the typical UFC New Year's event that we had kind of gotten used to for a little while. But Japan didn't let us down. I don't know. Did you get to catch? I know you didn't pull the all-nighter, but did you get a chance to catch some of the good highlights or watch some of the fights from Rajo?
Yeah. I watched the fights that I was concerned with. I saw Hideo submission over Shibata, and then obviously the Horiguchi's dominating comeback. And not for nothing, man. Sometimes it's good to get some rest and recovery, and you come back 1,000%. I mean, I feel like that was the case with Horiguchi because he was, leading up to his knee injury, he did have a really, really busy year, winning 2 titles and fighting everybody that wanted to challenge him all over the globe. So,
yeah, I think I brought that up with Hunter, where it's like the dude didn't, he wasn't turning down any challenges, and in MMA, when you keep fighting and you just keep constantly popping up on a pretty constant schedule, eventually you're going to take a loss. And he fought a young dude who has punching power and a good future ahead of him, and he got caught. Maybe he was cocky. Maybe he didn't train properly. Maybe he kind of took the New Year's a little light that year, and he got caught. It wasn't a New Year's Eve event, but maybe he just got caught. Maybe and this event he really, I feel like he re-solidified himself as one of the top flyweight, bantamweight, pound for pound fighters in the entire planet today. And I know a lot of the media, the big media, doesn't necessarily follow it, but I did. Even though they weren't necessarily following it to a T, it was nice to see his name in the news a little bit, even by some of the guys who admittedly don't really know. I'm not gonna say they don't know what they're talking about, but they're not up to date necessarily on his career or the Japanese scene. It was still nice to see his name at least get brought up on some of those shows.
Yeah, even if it was to bash them, as we know some folks did. But one thing I should, of course, with the way things are now in the world, or with COVID and this is wishful thinking, but of course, with a victory like that, my first thought is he going to try to get back both titles? He got back with the one. Is he going to try to get back the other one? Is he going to go back to Bellator, make some waves? There's guys over there that seem to want to fight him, but logistically, we have to consider how realistic that is going to be. I mean, I know the vaccine is out, and listen, it's unfortunate. We try not to be too political or too negative on here, but it's one of those things that's it's definitely a reality in MMA. When you lose 1,000 fights to COVID last year, you know what I mean? So it's like, so you have to wonder. I mean, I don't know. I would hope he'd come back for both, but it could be wishful thinking on my part. What do you think?
Well, I mean, right now, it's obviously early planning, but it sounds like Ryzen is planning like a mega show. I want to say April. The date, I might be wrong on the month, but for some reason April's popping in my head, where they were talking about having a big show at the at the Tokyo Dome. So we're talking, even if they do a COVID crowd, I believe that stadium holds something like 90,000, 100,000. So even with a COVID crowd, you might be able to get 30, 35,000 in there. Depending on what the status is in Japan. But we see Archuleta basically kind of calling him out for that Ryzen show. So I think that's the reality. I don't think Ryzen's going to shoot Horiguchi immediately over to Bellator. I think now that he's got his knee healed, he got the big win on New Year's. I think Japan's probably going to milk a little bit out of that before they risk sending him to the States to fight. Archuleta, I guess, assuming we do the back-to-back thing. So realistically, I think we'll get the first fight of those two. If we're going to do a series, I think we get the first fight of those two in Ryzen, maybe let's say April, and then we probably push towards the end of the year, and maybe and Bellator, I imagine at that point would be hoping that the world is turning and they're able to bring them in. Not that as great as Archuleta and Horiguchi are. I don't know if that sells out an arena in the United States. And that's no disrespect to those guys. I just don't know if that's, if you put Cyborg on the co-main event or something, yeah, you're going to do it.
Yeah.
But just them. So I don't know if it's as big to Bellator with those guys, because although they're obviously great pound for pound fighters and top at their weight class, I don't know if it's the money-making concern. Like Fedor hasn't fought because they're not going to do a Fedor fight in an empty arena.
Yeah.
And obviously he's a different situation. He's not a world champion and he's not one of these young killers going right now, but there's certain guys that they're not pushing. I was surprised we saw Cyborg fight, but I mean, you can only go so long. If we got a second Cyborg fight without a crowd, I'd be shocked. And I know there's some rumors and stuff going, but the New Year's Eve thing in general was great. I was up in Idaho. So I grinded till about 2 a.m. I think I made it to like the second intermission and then caught it. But like you said, the Tokoro fight, outstanding. Love seeing an old school. I mean, you called it. The dude, it wasn't the fight of the night, but it was entertaining as hell. You're watching a Olympic gold medalist going up against this MMA vet who, I mean, it's like we said, he's either going to get dropped on his head or we're going to see a flying triangle, and we damn near almost did. So you gotta love that. Obviously, seeing Manoa Man get crushed wasn't something that is great for the old school fans. Again, I think basically, between tension in the co-main event kickboxing, did his thing, remained undefeated, moving to like 30-0, I think maybe 20. No, he's approaching 40-0 now. Between him and Horiguchi, I think it was all a win for Ryzen. I think their ratings did pretty well, and I just thought I love the New Year's Eve show. I know. Yeah, it's on the East Coast. That's a killer on the East Coast because it doesn't even start till like 1 a.m.
Yeah, I mean, but I do like. I mean, when you look back, I mean, one thing, obviously for me, because I covered the last two. I mean, the last when you think about the people at WSOF and changing to PFL, every time they did something here on New Year's Eve in Madison Square Garden in New York City, where the ball drops and everybody's kind of watching because it's it's the year changing over here in the States. I always, deep down inside, I always kind of like it was always something I wished for back in the days of Pride. Like I would love for something MMA related to happen on New Year's Eve and be a part of it. And I was fortunate to be a part of those things. So this year, but in Japan, they've always done it. They're kind of they started it. Anyone else doing it is copying. So like you said, man, it was just really, it was probably, if you're a fight fan, I mean, you're a real fight fan, hardcore fight fan, you were definitely, that was on your radar, whether you watched it live or you watched it after the fact, like I did, because I actually had to work that on New Year's Eve until 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I mean, like I said, I didn't make it through the whole show. I was visiting family, and to try to stay up till 5 a.m. probably wouldn't have been too much of a, I wouldn't have been,
I think it was 5 a.m. Yeah, you're right, because I think that the main event didn't happen till like 7 a.m. I was just waking up and having my coffee.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I stayed awake till about 2, just kind of watching, and in the second intermission, I just go, you know what? If I want to have any relationship with my family,
I mean,
probably
that
should be at least live on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to catch the highlights and stuff. I mean, because of that, I was like, all right, most of the stuff happened, and like I was working, but it was obviously, end of the year. If you're working on New Year's Eve, I mean, it's probably, especially if you have like a ho-hum office type job, there's nothing really going on that you have to address that's immediate. So I was able to catch up by the time I signed out of work. One quick housekeeping note, though, as we enter the new year. when you and I do this podcast without a guest like we are for this first episode, we usually broadcast on YouTube, Periscope, and Twitch. Just a housekeeping note for folks that watch. I know sometimes Nolan King chimes in on Periscope. Periscope's going away at the end of this month. It's just switching over to Twitter Live, but so I assume that the connectivity will be the same. They're just not going to use the Periscope name or I guess that little bubble logo anymore either. But for folks that do watch on Periscope or catch us on Periscope after the fact, it's it's either not going to be there or it's going to be Twitter Live. So
there's helpful information for anybody like you said who watches on Periscope. Get back to Ryzen real quick. I ordered the pay-per-view. I know that there's a world where not everybody pays. I paid for it. I was a little gun shy because it wasn't like a giant pay-per-view.
It was cheap too, wasn't it?
It was I think it was $25.
Yeah, that's good.
And I ordered it flawless
1990
stream.
Prices.
Yeah, exactly. Flawless stream. Gave me I think he gave me a week of replays. So that was the advantage of being able to when I ordered it, I was able to catch up by 10 a.m. the next morning on the rest of the card.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. It wasn't like I was missing out. Before I even jumped on Twitter or Instagram or anything to get spoiler, I was able to just sit down and watch the last 2 hours of fights, on my time. So props to them. They cut the price in half. If they do $24.95, $19.95, I can't remember exactly the price. If they keep it in that price range, I think that they can do a successful pay-per-view and at least get people who might search for streams that don't want to put up with the headache just to deal with it, especially if they offer the replay. One thing, you brought up PFL, and as I sat on the couch on New Year's Eve, I couldn't help but feel like they dropped the ball. They had established, and I don't want to be too negative. They haven't had any fights this year.
No, but we've kind of said that all year.
But if we, I feel like there wasn't a whole. I mean, obviously you had football, college football, and you had stuff, going on. But I just felt like even if you were going to do a no crowd event, just one event, why not throw together a 5-fight card to keep the New Year's Eve tradition going? They did it 2 years in a row. It had been successful as far as a midday United States MMA event, television. I feel like, why not? Kyla Harrison's begging for fights left and right.
I mean, litigation was threatened by a few other fighters too. I mean,
you're still in the year. I don't know what the contracts say, but if you have to offer somebody a fight in the 2020 year, give them a fight on New Year. It just seemed like it was a missed opportunity because they had gained momentum with that. And to me, it would have been a cool thing for them to go hey, New Year's Eve spectacular, Kyla Harrison, Cooper Jr. Here's 4 of our most exciting fighters fighting. I don't care if they're fighting scrubs. They can fight anybody they want.
They could have done 6 events and a shorter tournament. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe not even for the $1 million, maybe 200,000 or something like that. But they could have done something. And
why? But you have Rory McDonald, you got Verdun, you got some big names under contract. How about an introduction? Going, hey, don't forget about us. New Year's Eve, we got 4 fights going, and we're going to jump into the tournament come June. It would have been something to kind of keep something fresh, and they had been successful with it. Like you talked about wanting something in the United States.
And now they have to do something to remind folks that they're still there to make it look like they haven't folded. No, listen, we've been saying it when everyone else started. We've been saying it for a while that because normally their season starts in May, June, which is kind of when everyone started coming back anyway. We went through this throughout the year. I mean, I brought it up specifically because I covered them live, on site and stuff. I mean, I've been to DC, here in New York, and Nassau, everywhere that they did something that I can get to, I've covered.
Hell, I went to World Series of Fighting 1. And that's where PFL started. So I mean, both of us have supported him from day one. Especially from the media side, you did a lot of writing.
I don't know, and interviews and things like that. I mean, Lance Palmer was pretty vocal about it, about not fighting and wanting to fight, and I know Malki Kawa, he manages some of those fighters, and announced on social media that there was looking to get fighters out of contract. Brandon Loughnane, who thought he found some love because he didn't win a contract off of Contender Series, was excited to get going, and then and Kayla Harrison is the obvious one because she's their biggest star. I mean, I'm glad she got that fight in Invicta. We got to see how dangerous she could be with elbows. And then she was supposed to fight again at Titan FC, and that fight didn't fall through because it was a rematch against her and Josette Cotton, someone she beat already, but Cotton was like 20 pounds overweight or something like that. So yeah, it sucks for Harrison because obviously she was just trying to get going. So I mean, look, I think they announced that April, which is earlier than normal, is when they're going to come back, but like they really do need to turn up the marketing and like what the money you saved not holding events, you need to put it into some serious PR overload and market the hell out of whatever you're going to do if you're going to let folks remember that you're there. You know what I mean? I mean, grant interviews to everybody.
If they want to be a big time player, if they just want to be, which is what they seem like they want to be. I mean, when you start signing Anthony Pettis and Rory McDonald and Fabricio Verdun and you've got some of these other names, you're saying you want to be a big player. So if you're going to be a big player, let's step up and start getting some fights going.
They
never had big crowds anyway, so like it's not like the gate is what's keeping PFL out.
No,
I mean that's just the truth.
No, and they're on ESPN Plus too, so I mean it's just more. It's more for them to get. I mean, ESPN/ESPN Plus. They've always broken up the cards. So again, they're starting earlier. They're supposed to do their first event in April. So again, I mean, April seems to be like a magic month that I'm hearing with everything as far as people trying to get going. With the vaccine out and stuff like that. So, like you said, the gate's not a big deal. If anything, that should have made it easier to put on events. But I mean, again, we can't hash the past. We have to look ahead to
and that's why I didn't want to be. I didn't want to be too negative. I just felt like they dropped the ball there, and I was thinking about you actually when I was that day. I was thinking like Ed normally would be in New York. We'd have to be going on.
I put up my picture of Lance Palmer toasting at midnight when he won his $2 million thing. I mean, that was a good night too. It was fun. It's actually nice to break in the new year with the PFL. So
I mean, if that's a tradition that keeps going, I'm not going to be far from coming out there for I've never done New Year's Eve in New York.
No, it's not worth it. It's fuck.
I know it's chaos. But I sure as shit could go sit in that event, walk outside, grab a beer at Penzie's.
What you would do? I'll tell you exactly what you do. You'd be in the fan. I'd do media. You'd be in the crowd watching the fights. When it's over, I'd meet you outside, and we'd go to Brooklyn and get drunk. I mean,
there you go.
That's
get the hell out of
get the hell out of Manhattan.
Oh man, let's hope. Let's hope that things come
crossed.
together and we get there. With that said, we're looking at a guest for next week, which we'll hold off on naming anybody because you know how the world works. But we've got 3 UFC events to look forward to. One this weekend, which obviously we're going to talk about anyway, but we'll catch up on the following 2. This weekend, early. This has got to be like you got to love this start time.
Or
is this one 3 p.m. East Coast time, main card, noon prelims on ABC. So no ESPN Plus. You can get it with rabbit ears this time if you have the ability.
Yeah.
So UFC makes its venture back to cable TV or network television. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they're doing both ABC and ESPN Plus, and the prelims are on ESPN Plus. But the as far as the start time, I mean, I'm going to record the ABC portion because I'm out and about Saturday. so during the day, I mean, I do my own training, and then I gotta go help my parents and stuff. So I won't be on Twitter tweeting away about it. I'll catch it later. I'll actually be home in time for the press conference, which is still, again, I don't mind the early card. It still gives me something to watch and do and go back and watch on Saturday. So I have no complaints from me. I do enjoy an early card. I mean, I have a feeling this is just trying to set the tone for I think maybe that pay-per-view might be early again, right?
I think that's a normal start time.
Hmm,
Once we get to that card, I can double check the time. I think this is the only one that has a crazy start time.
okay.
The Wednesday card might be early too. As we scroll through the fights, I'll
Yeah.
keep an eye on the time. But I
You
know
know,
this one is the 12 o'clock Eastern prelim start right now is what's scheduled. They do have 9 prelims scheduled for a 3-hour window, so that
yeah.
I could see that possibly backtracking another hour and maybe them doing a 11 a.m. start time on the East Coast.
So one thing I want to bring up, just because I mentioned it, when I did, when I talked about this card with the guys over at Sure Dog or Ant Walker's podcast that I did just be the last week of the year, the last Tuesday of 2020. So I want to mention it here, and I might have. So I apologize. Anyone that follows my stuff, I apologize if it's redundant, because I probably mentioned it also on Sunday Submission over at MMAnews.com. But I have to. I kind of want. I'm asking because I want your take on it. Do you think they're doing this so they could be first, like on CBS? I mean, I don't even remember if I mentioned this last week when we had Hunter, or the last episode we had Hunter on. But because obviously, with Viacom CBS, I mean, it's and Showtime Sports, it's easy for Bellator to just throw their event on CBS. I feel like this is just a move for the UFC, because we all know Dana White loves being first, and they like being the leading promotion in combat sports. I feel like this is just them, because an early card like this, I mean, what kind of ratings are they going to do on a Saturday? I don't know. Aren't there other sports on? Like,
Oh yeah, they'll be going up against NFL playoff games.
yeah,
So what do I think? I'm ABC was always the network that like I stated earlier on the show. It's kind of the family network, so kind of
Mhm.
weird.
Yeah,
Has a weird feel to it. UFC on ABC sounds strange to me a little bit, but I think this is Disney, ESPN, whoever the hell the upper arts, basically just kind of putting their toes in the water.
hmm,
Like, let's do something in the middle of the day on a Saturday when there's a big NFL game on the other channel. We may
hmm,
not get great ratings, but we'll get solid ratings, and we kind of get an idea. We can get a feel for what our audience thinks about this.
hmm,
Um, I think that there's still that nervousness after the quote unquote riot that we had in Tennessee a couple years ago for the Bellator or for Strikeforce. I mean, got it forever ago now.
yeah.
And we see all this shit in the world, and somehow that was,
Hmm.
the riot in the cage. It's like it's Mayhem fucking Miller and the Diaz brothers. Like, what the hell do they think is gonna, like?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, to me, like, it's just idiotic that was the scene that all of a sudden caused MMA to get taken off of network television. So I don't think they expect big ratings. The UFC traditionally hasn't done great ratings on network television, at least
Yeah.
anywhere near to what the early days used to be. I believe the biggest rating still on network television is the very first UFC, which consisted of one fight. Actually, maybe two fights. I think they did 2 fights. I think they put the Guida Henderson co-main event also on that card with the Dos Santos and Velasquez heavyweight title fight. But I just think it's kind of a feel as far as beating Bellator. I'm sure that there's something there. Just knowing Dana White, I don't think it's anything big though. I do think Bellator has dropped the ball by not being on CBS. I always wonder what the hesitation is. Why
It's definitely the zone contract. I
is
mean,
that what kept him off of CBS? I mean, is that 100%? Like, I mean, now that we're expired, we in theory we can, they should move that way then, right? I mean, I guess that's
yeah, no,
my.
I think they should, but it's definitely the zone contract, because I mean, every time I bring it up, it pisses me off, because the zone could have done something great with Bellator and KSW and all the other Top FC and all the other MMA promotions they were showing there. But I mean, this is our podcast, so I'm allowed to say whatever the fuck I want. They
Yeah.
fucked up.
Yeah,
they,
but I guess my question would be trying
yeah.
to understand the DAZN contract. The way I understood it is basically the DAZN contract was for like for the years that they had it. Like, we had the heavyweight Grand Prix. Basically, the Grand Prix were exclusive to DAZN, and those didn't simulcast on Paramount. The events that were Paramount events did DAZN have the rights to those? I understand that
I
they
mean,
simulcast on
I think
DAZN.
it's. I think I don't know the specifics of the contract, but it was definitely broadcasting rights. Like, I mean, either you're showing it on Paramount and the Zone, or you're showing us stuff. You're showing exclusive stuff to the Zone. And it looks like if they were going to do anything else anywhere else outside of the body of work of what Viacom CBS owns, you know, they're trying different things. They're trying to make their own app, you know, like to stream like everybody else is. So I think that there's a lot of things going on in the background. But I mean, with the move to the move to CBS Sports, it's just it's obvious, especially. I mean, you know, our boy Nolan King from MMA Junkie, he's been at all the events at their bubble in Mohegan Sun, and it always comes up at the press conferences. And Coker just says, "Listen, we have a contract with them, so we're just waiting to hear back from them." He's addressed it several times. He's just like, "Listen, we'll put stuff on like that last event. They didn't even put on the Zone, and people in Canada missed out on that last event because of that." And so, of course, it came up that one, and Coker was like, "Yeah, well, we have to wait till that. It's as soon as I don't know when the expiration date is. I would assume it's going to be maybe this coming June, or I forget how many years it was. I have to look back at when I originally covered the contract to find out how long it's supposed to be for. But the only reason why I know it's June because it was in June that they had a press conference, so it's either going to be this coming June or whatever it is. Whenever it's over, I think that's when we'll start seeing jumps to Showtime, CBS, or vice versa. However they do it, well, it's gonna. I mean, they're just waiting until they can so they don't get sued by anybody.
I hope so. Hopefully they get full backing and they actually get pushed onto those platforms. That would be cool to see. Getting back to this card, I'm not going to break down. We got a lot of events. This fight's got a lot of fights. This card's okay. I'm not overly impressed by it. Again, like if you were going for mega ratings, you might not have kind of a washed up Carlos Condit in the co-main event. I mean, again, not to be disrespectful, but I mean, I listen, Condit, Matt Brown, I'm going to watch all day, night, maybe 15 times, depending on how good the fight is. I just, it's kind of just it's kind of a Bellator fight. I mean, if I'm being honest, it's a fight that could potentially be great, but doesn't have a huge ramifications on the future necessarily.
I mean, they have some. I mean, obviously there's a reason Joaquin Buckley's on the main portion. They're hoping for another highlight reel. If he does another highlight reel KO on ABC, that's going to be
correct. I mean, Buckley's a big name. You got Ponzinibbio making his return. He's been gone forever now, so that's good. I mean, that's why I said the card, and he's fighting Li Jingling Lang, who's exciting. Chinese fighter. So I mean, the card's got potential. It's just the names. I mean, there's so many fights now. It's just hard to keep up with the names. God bless the people that are actually able to keep track of every single guy, because I can't do it any longer. But with that said, the main event's Max Holloway and Kelvin Cater. This is an exciting ass fight. What do you think?
I mean, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it, but one of the things that jumped out at me that I kind of talked about this past Sunday was like, I wonder if this is one of the plant, like UFC is trying to lay some seeds. Obviously, if you got Holloway fought McGregor, McGregor's fighting his rematch against Poirier, the end of the month, and there's history with Holloway and McGregor. So I'm wondering if they're trying to lay seeds for future McGregor matchups, especially because I mean let's keep in mind that this is you mentioned many times last year that Conor fights if there's a crowd, and they're doing some sort of ticket sales and crowd.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that. I was starting to feel like an idiot for saying he was going to fight without a crowd, and sure as shit, now he's got a crowd.
Yeah, or a partial crowd or whatever they're doing there. So I'm wondering if they're trying to lay seeds for like I mean, because if you looked at Dana White's, he did almost a half an hour interview with Brett Okamoto on yesterday, over on ESPN. It's on ESPN's YouTube channel if you want to watch it. I didn't take a lot from it. I mean, I didn't write anything about it, but everyone pulls an article out of every fucking sentence Dana White says. But one of the things he said, he was very on Conor again. I mean, almost like in 2015, 2016, the way he was on Conor. and it looks like the version of Conor McGregor that's competing this month is somebody that we could see again. So, I mean, he almost has Conor winning against Dustin Poirier at the end of the month. So my thing is, if Holloway's a favorite, which I think he's a minus 150 for this weekend favorite, if he gets past Qatar this weekend, I'm wondering if that's something they're going to try to spin for back in the summer. They will likely probably be making their way back to Abu Dhabi, in the summer if we're mirroring, this year against last year. So I just feel like they're trying to do some road work for at least 6 months ahead.
I mean that perhaps I don't necessarily. If first off in this fight, I'm going to pick Holloway. I think it's going to be a really close fight. It's either that or it's going to be the end of his run, which is kind of wild because he's still really young. So, yeah. But if he has 3 losses in a row, then that's not that's a tough. Generally, that's a tough mountain to climb back up, especially in such a deep division. So I'll go with Holloway. As far as McGregor goes, first thing is I sat here, last January, driving to Vegas, about a week from now, I think it was the 18th of January. And I heard how Conor McGregor was going to fight 3 times in the year. He fought Donald Cerrone, beat him in 40 seconds, and we never saw him again. Yeah. So I don't believe a fucking word Dana White says. This episode's going to get explicit lyric sticker. I don't believe a word he says when it comes to Conor McGregor. Yeah. He says McGregor. This is the McGregor that'll fight. Yeah,
McGregor does whatever the fuck he wants. Yeah.
This is the McGregor that'll fight anybody. I call bullshit. If Poirier comes up limp and they try to give him Chimaev, he'd run for the hills. He ain't fighting a wrestler. Not on a week's notice, not on 2 weeks' notice.
Especially somebody that doesn't mind fighting on short notice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's talking. Yeah. If something happens to Poirier, we know what's going to happen. The main event will be Hooker and Chandler. I mean, we know how this is going to go down. I'm sorry, especially if he's not fighting in front of a bunch of Irish fans. He did the Mendes thing when he was trying to work his way up the chart because he had 20,000 Irish fans that had flown across the country.
And I don't think he was a millionaire yet.
No, well, yeah, I mean, he might have been a millionaire, but he wasn't lifetime rich, at that point.
There wasn't no proper 12 back then.
No proper 12. No, yeah, I mean, yeah. But it'll be interesting. I don't know how that works. I don't know if McGregor's motivated enough to go down to 155 to fight Holloway. Holloway obviously can't go up to 170. So I mean, it's a weird dynamic. I think if McGregor wins, he's getting a title shot. Like they're straight up. I'm surprised they're not handing him a belt if he wins this anyway. Knowing that they want him to be the champ. So yeah, I kind of foresee if Hooker and if Hooker and Chandler's a fight of the year and somebody pulls that off, I could see them that fight coming up with McGregor.
I mean, although that's all great fights. So, I mean, no matter who wins with the next few events, as far as I know we're looking at Holloway and Qatar. By the way, I'm with you on I can't. It's hard to pick against Holloway just because.
Not if you look 3 losses in a row. 3 losses in a row is tough. I know 2 in a row are to Volkanovski, but.
And then the last one was a split decisions. There's people that think he didn't lose that. So you know what I mean? Like it wasn't like a bad loss. It's not like he got knocked out or submitted. So
correct. He looked good in his last fight.
Yeah. And I ran across a clip. I mentioned this on Sunday when I did my thing with MMA News. I ran across a clip of him talking to Rogan on how the first time he fought McGregor, he didn't have a striking coach, and now obviously now he's been a champion. He's got a full camp. I just see. I mean, that's the cool thing about the rematch at the end of the month and this fight now is like they're so. Holloway's a headliner because he's just so far evolved as a mixed martial artist now. It's really hard to pick against him, and that's not to take away from obviously everyone's got a puncher's chance or a striker's chance or. Calvin Qatar's no slouch himself. So, again, but Holloway's a favorite, but minus 150 is like not a huge favorite. So I think we've probably got another potential January fight of the year because wasn't Joanna and Wei Li in January as well, and that was
March.
was it March? Yeah.
March.
So I mean,
Right after the lockdown shit started.
are you
Or right
sure?
before. It was the week before March 7th.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Co-main event for Israel and Romero.
Yeah, so I mean, the beginning of the year, I mean, if they're probably it's on ABC too, so they're probably both really, we've talked to enough fighters to know like that when they know there's eyeballs on them, there's something that sparks. And plus, it's the first event with them with fans back too. I mean, who knows how that's going to affect what we see that night? So I'm excited for it, man. I mean, hopefully I can get my parents to turn it on while I'm helping them out. But otherwise, I'll be off Twitter until the evening, Saturday evening.
Yeah, so that's Saturday, and then we get a midweek event, which is cool. Like this is one of the UFC where they do it like once a year, where we get 3 events in a week. So they're doing the Wednesday, um, again early start time, not as early. This is a 6 p.m. Eastern start time, so maybe that's actually yeah, it's not super early. That's normal start time.
That's on
Uh,
regular ESPN, you said, right?
ESPN Plus on Wednesday.
Oh.
According to Tapology. Again, I don't know what. Yeah,
I'm
so
doing
you're
the
not
same.
big. Not going to go down this whole card. This was supposed to be Leon Edwards versus Chimaev in the main event. That fight fell through for the third time, I guess, maybe second, third, fourth.
It
Seems like
looks
for
like both.
is it broadcasting on both? It very
Yeah,
well
I mean,
might be.
I'm looking at Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Again, just for folks that watch this, I know I normally put this stuff up on the screen, but because of our technical difficulties, I don't know if the stream could handle it. So, but I like that card. I mean, actually, the prelims, Ricky Simone, Gaetano Perillo. I mean, the thing is, we can't look that far ahead either. Not just because of COVID and all the bullshit that could happen between now. We've seen enough fights fall apart on fight day. So that's why we're probably not going to go through everything.
Yeah, not going to go down the card. Just looking at the main event currently, right now, as it stands, the former co-main event moves to the main event with that change. So it's Michael Kiesa versus Neil Magni. I think I said it on here before, and I don't even know how many times I've been right or wrong, but I'm just going to pick Neil Magny to win. Every time I pick against him, he wins. So, he's currently on a 3-fight win streak, so I've probably picked against him 3 times. But I'm going to go with Magny to grind out a win. I don't see this being some incredible fight for a Wednesday night card. Like you said, some prelims. There's an Nurmagomedov on the undercard, undefeated, 12-0 fighter.
I have to see their dimensions. I feel like I know Chiesa's got a really nice, an underrated submission game. I wouldn't be surprised if he could if he could submit Magni. So just to be devil's advocate, I'm going with Chiesa.
Let's see, 6'3" Magni, 6'1" Kiesa, 80-inch reach Magni, 75.5-inch reach for Kiesa.
So he's got the reach advantage.
No, Magni's the longer, lankier fighter. 2 inches taller, 5 inches reach, 4.5 reach. So, but that's limbs though. Like you said, like you talk about submissions with the arms and stuff.
Yeah.
He's not.
Guys with that ectomorph body type are notoriously difficult from my observation. So that's
correct.
That's
but
why
I feel like Kiesa's like searching Darces and like I feel like he's more of the choke as opposed to
Yeah, he did the
joints.
He did the one-handed Kimura the one time, which is pretty unique. True. So that's what I'm saying. He's got an underrated, like he's got a nice eye for submissions. He's I'm thinking about that fight. What's the fight I'm thinking about where he argued with the ref
against Kevin Lee?
Yeah. So you know what I mean? Like I don't know. I just think it's I feel like he's got a chance there.
No, I mean I think it's 50-50. I'm just not going to pick much against Magni.
I mean, that card also Roxanne Martifari versus Viviana Rajo. I like watching Martifari fight. She's paid well for me in the past as a bettor.
She's been good. She's been good to those that wager on her.
Yeah.
She gets underrated and gets crazy odds against her sometimes.
Yeah.
But that's the midweek card. And then obviously this all wraps up on January 23rd with UFC 257. This is the normal start time, pay-per-view start time, 10 o'clock Eastern for the main card. Not the greatest pay-per-view card, but a pretty damn solid card.
I feel like it's not even complete because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only 7 fights on the card, from what I see.
Yeah, different on Tapology. There's four.
Oh, so okay, so I'm looking at Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia is behind. So basically, the main card we're looking at right now is our main event, which is a rematch of Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. Co-main event of Daniel Hooker facing the newcomer to the UFC, Michael Chandler, former Bellator lightweight champion, 2-time champion. Jessica Eye, Joanna Calderwood, Marina Rodriguez, Amanda Ribas. And then the top prelim currently listed is Brad Tavares versus Antonio Carlos Jr. For some reason, I feel like that's a main card opener now. As you said, these things change. A couple things when I jumped at the card that shocked me. First of all, Carlos Jr. is only 10-4. Like, I feel like I've seen Carlos Jr. fight like 42 times, and I enjoy watching the guy fight.
Yeah.
I just feel like that there was a time a couple years ago where he was like on every single card, like when they were doing the Brazilian Ultimate Fighter and all that stuff. It just seemed like it was Carlos Jr. everywhere, shoe face all over the place. So I was shocked to see he was only 10-4. Tavares is obviously a good matchup for him. Being hard to pick anybody in that. Curious. I actually going to pull up the odds right now because I imagine it's pretty dang close. And I don't see any odds.
Shoeface is always Shoeface has always been somebody I've always favored, and usually, I mean, I'm right when I pick him. So
yeah, I didn't realize he also had a flying triangle submission win over Gary Tonin in Submission Underground. I mean, I gotta look that one up. Like, that's like, when I saw that, I mean, anybody who followed my stuff when I was doing some covering of Metamoris and EBI would know that my my casual jiu-jitsu fanness for Tonin was pretty crazy at that time. The dude was absolute beast. So anybody that does a flying friggin' triangle at 205 pounds on Gary Tonin is friggin' crazy. So that's a good fight. Rebus coming off of her win over against Paige Van Zant against Marina Rodriguez.
She's got a lot of hype behind her, so
now she's moving into the take nothing away from Paige, but now she's moving into the upper echelon of the division. Top contenders she's gonna fight a top contender every fight she's got until she's either washed out or wins the title. Jessica Eye working her way back up against Joanna Calderwood. Calderwood coming off the loss to Maya when she kind of rolled the dice. She had the title shot. She rolled the dice. Maya beat her, and then Maya went on to have a fairly competitive fight with Shevchenko, despite losing. So that, obviously, the top 2 fights on this card are what the vast majority of people are rooting for. I see that most people seem to think Dan Hooker is going to walk away with this pretty easy. I think a lot of those people that think that never watched Michael Chandler fight. I think that's probably the quote unquote UFC fans as opposed to MMA fans.
Yeah,
I'm not saying Michael Chandler is going to win this fight, but I fully expect a dogfight. I think we're going to see a lot of blood. I think we're going to see a lot of. I think this is going to be. Neither of these guys are bowing out early. Neither of these guys are taking the easy way out.
No, but so there is a history though of I mean, whether you want to admit it or not, there's fighters will tell you that have been anywhere, and I know we're going to talk to someone that's fought in the UFC hopefully soon with the next upcoming episodes, but so we can ask about it, but it looks like there is such a thing as UFC jitters. I know Alvarez didn't really suffer them when he fought and won the lightweight title. That's actually where you and I first met at that event.
But he lost his first fight. He lost to Donald Cerrone in his first UFC fight.
Yeah, he lost that, but when he won, I'm saying you're solidifying my point is that usually these guys when they cross over, there's a lot of hype behind him. Look at who's the guy that beat Chandler twice? Why am I forgetting his name?
He's on my wall here. Brooks, Will Brooks.
Will Brooks. He beat Chandler twice convincingly. Got to the UFC and we didn't see that version of Will Brooks, or I mean, I was all on the Will Brooks hype train. So I mean, I don't know if it's a UFC fandom thing or if it's just folks that have followed these fighters into the UFC, with the exception of Justin Gaethje, obviously.
Well, yeah,
But
but Gagey started off 1 and 2. I
yeah,
think
but he's also a maniac.
Oh, no, I get you.
Yeah,
As far as the UFC jitters thing, I believe is 100% real. That goes
yeah,
back all the way to the 90s when I was talking to guys who were fighting in the UFC. I mean, it was a real thing. It wasn't. There was a different vibe fighting in UFC 8 as opposed to fighting, in Pancrase.
yeah,
So there is that is legitimate. I think Chandler's a veteran enough. I mean, we didn't see UFC jitters with like Israel Adesanya. We like. I feel like some of these dudes that Will Brooks, Wall had some big fights and obviously
yeah,
had Chandler's number. I feel
yeah,
like Chandler, having fought in Japan, having and I think
yeah,
Will Brooks,
yeah. That's true.
I
Yeah,
feel like Chandler's been the poster boy long enough where like he's not going to feel the pressure of being Michael Chandler.
yeah.
Will Brooks might have felt the pressure of being Will Brooks a little bit. He was the champion coming in, this right here, like, and I don't know what Will Brooks got paid. Chandler got fucking paid. So I don't feel like there's the same, like, I have to win. If I lose this fight, I'm done. Will Brooks probably made 30 grand for his UFC debut. He loses that, he makes 20 his next fight. Chandler's going to make life-changing money in his first bout. So that's I think could be something different. I just there's nothing in me that believes Chandler's gonna that we're gonna see like a flopping Chandler. We're gonna see
No,
some
I
washed up
mean,
dude. I
yeah,
feel like he's gonna come in here and he's excited as hell from all reports to be doing this. This is what he's been waiting for. So I just feel like I want him to win. I like Hooker too.
oh yeah.
But I want Chandler to win. I want Chandler
Yeah,
to come in.
it'd be nice. It'd be nice to be if he wins, and it's kind of like, all right, that's something that shows that. Listen, I mean, there's guys out there that are good that you don't know about for the casual fan for the. I don't know. I was about to
Correct.
start.
And,
I was
and
about to start
part of me
cursing
doesn't
again.
really care because those people, if they don't know that by now, then we're never going to
Yeah.
get to them. But I feel like I don't know. He's one of my favorite fighters. So to see him,
Mhm.
we talked about him with Matt Marsden when we had Cut Matt on, and it's like, this dude was Bellator. This is,
Yeah.
Bellator's 12 years old or whatever now. And this dude was Bellator. And he's moving to the UFC and he's towards the end of his career. So we're probably, like I said, not going to get, we're probably not going to get a 10 fight win streak out of him, but I expect him to go like 5-3 with 8 of the greatest fights you've ever seen in your life.
Definitely a title shot. Definitely a championship material, as we know. I mean, multiple time Bellator champ, lightweight champion, tournament champion. So, no, it's definitely one of the fights that if it's not on your radar, get it on your radar, especially because of the potential future for either man leading up to with that division, especially with the main event on the same card.
That brings us to the main event, a rematch from UFC 178, I believe. Without looking that up, I think it was the Mighty Mouse card that was on, which was originally Cormier and Jones, the first time they were supposed to fight, which eventually moved to UFC 182. But I want to think Poirier can win, but they did fight one time. So we do have some footage of Poirier getting crushed in like a minute. I understand that was a different Dustin Poirier. I understand that, but he still was crushed in a minute. So it's hard for me to pick him to win. And I tend to, I tend to love watching McGregor fight, but not being a McGregor fan. This time, I think McGregor beats him. I mean, we saw what he did to Cowboy, and I'm not comparing Poirier to Cowboy. Because I think we all kind of saw what was going to go down with the Cowboy fight, even though we maybe didn't want to say it out loud last year. I think McGregor wins. I hope he doesn't. I'd love to see Poirier just beat him to a friggin' pulp. But knowing what I know, I feel like it would be crazy for me to think that Poirier somehow, I don't think he knocks him out. I mean, we've seen McGregor take shots.
Yeah.
I wonder how, if he's going to beat him, he's got to grind the hell out of him. He's got to push him up against the cage. He's got a dirty box. He's got to hurt McGregor early on and not let him off the hook if he wants any chance. And I as much as I'd love to see it, I can't bring myself to think that
Well,
McGregor can lose this fight.
Interestingly enough, the last guest we had, a Hunter Homostek, who was here to promote his podcast on the Brawl Network. He and Dwayne Finley had Dustin Poirier as their first guest on their podcast, and I mean, first of all, I think, I mean, like you said, Poirier is not the same fighter that he was when they first fought. I think he's way far evolved to the point that this fight, this rematch, to me is worthy not only because of how it came to be with both of them wanting to do their own charity event outside of the UFC and things like that, but I mean it's a testament to show how the mental maturity and the maturity that I don't think Poirier was a black belt when they fought in jiu-jitsu. I mean Conor McGregor's losses, he's got 100% lost by submission. That's his so if he hasn't, again, as a fighter, you hope they evolve. But I mean, we just said how McGregor, he fought the one time. We don't know how far evolved he is, and I think Poirier being a different fighter, not only is skill wise, but his mental maturity is what he talked about with Hunter on the Brawl Network podcast. I think I think he stands a strong chance of winning. Listen, when you put odds makers and McGregor's, if you're a betting man, obviously McGregor's probably the favorite for that. But I'm going to go ahead and say that if I'm putting money on Dustin Poirier just because I think if he is, I haven't checked the odds, but if he is the underdog for that, then I feel like that's probably going to be a smart bet to make. The guy is just he's evolved so much for his as a striker, as a grappler. I mean, he definitely has a move that McGregor's probably. That's one thing though. Like everyone knows that Dustin Poirier's got a crazy tight guillotine. He's probably going to go for that guillotine. He said it to Hunter. He called it the Guillotine Island. He said that they were going to call the change the name of the venue to Guillotine Island. But if you look at Conor's fight against Chad Mendes, he definitely drills guillotine escape. So I don't know if he wins by guillotine, I'll I don't know, I'll dress like a hipster or something.
No, I mean everything you say is totally valid, and a lot of this takes into account like what McGregor really shows up. What Dana White says is irrelevant. Are we going to see a guy who's been binging on alcohol and booze for the last 10 months, or are we going to see somebody who's really taking it seriously? I mean, we until it happens, you don't really know. And if McGregor loses, then obviously there'll be excuses left and right. I just it's hard for me to pick against him. I picked against him so many friggin' times and been wrong.
Yeah.
I've
picked against him and been wrong too, but I mean,
I know.
I was right.
I know. It plays in my head, and I like the guillotine thing. Okay, like if like I don't know if so McGregor's going to get off early in this fight. Like he always basically comes at his opponent, and like there's not like a waiting out period. He usually comes out and is firing early. Other than like the Mendes fight, maybe because he got taken down, and then maybe another fight here or there. But everybody else, he pretty much strikes at the dude within like the first seconds of the fight. I think Poirier's just got to not fall into that trap. Poirier needs to be patient, and Poirier, of these two guys, I'm trying to think real quick. Has McGregor ever been in like a bloody back and forth slugfest? He usually finishes his dudes off. Like I can't. Like Poirier's been to hell and back.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if McGregor's been to hell. He's been submitted quick in some fights, and obviously he got drowned by Khabib. But like, I don't feel like, and I know Mendes had him busted up, but I don't feel like he's just been, hasn't had to fight through a broken eye orbital, to get where he's going. So I think all that stuff can happen, and that can obviously change the dynamic of the fight. It's a fun fight. I'm glad that we're not getting Diaz McGregor. If we're gonna get McGregor, let's get him against a legitimate competition. And Poirier is the number 2 ranked lightweight right now. So I'll be curious how they play that. Does Poirier get to walk in second? Like usually McGregor doesn't play second fiddle to anybody, but he's the higher ranked fighter.
Yeah.
It'll be weird to see how the UFC does it because I believe the higher ranked fighter usually is the second one to always walk
Come
in.
on, they're gonna walk in Connor.
I
last.
know,
Yeah.
I know, but again, like, but that's what I'm saying. It'll be weird to see how this kind of unfolds because like this is the first time that I guess not the first time he was the second ranked fighter. I'm trying to remember in New York. Eddie Alvarez obviously came in behind McGregor. McGregor came in first, had all that smoke and crap, but he was the champion. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But I don't know. 3 fights next week. Obviously, Saturday, Wednesday, Tuesday. We plan to have a show again with hopefully have a guest. And look forward to potentially be looking forward to the XFC movement in 2021. As they take over PFL spot a little bit on NBC Sports. So I guess until then, check us out on Twitter at Combat Hour, Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. Follow me at MMA Hawk 21 on Twitter and Instagram. Check out Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, Old Head Carb on Twitch. And as you said earlier, Periscope's moving on. So if you watched him on Periscope, check out Twitter Live. And as usual, you can find our video content on www.allaccessmma.com. Ed, good chat. Look forward to next week having a guest and being in the middle of all this craziness.
Yeah, that's right. I didn't even think about that. We're going to be in the middle of a night before the Wednesday night card. But yeah, it should be interesting. All right, well, we'll see you next week.
All right. Have a good run here. I'll talk to you.